And just like that, 2020 is coming to a close, and this is the final episode of BASCHMANIA for 2020 with Vincenzo Joseph. This is Coffee Talk. 2020 was a wild year for everybody. It was a great year for this podcast. I thank you all for tuning into the show. And if this is your first time listening, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. There's so much good wrestling content coming your way in the near future. For everyone who tuned in all year long, thank you so much. I'm glad you guys appreciate this content and find value and entertainment in this podcast. When they canceled wrestling back in March, I didn't know if I was even going to do the podcast because I had built it up so much around duels and matches and events. And together we weathered the storm. We had a great year, so thank you for tuning in, and hopefully next year will be even better.
It's BASCHMANIA! Let me tell you something, brother. He gave us everything he had in him tonight. What you gonna do when BASCHMANIA runs wild on you? Oh, it's gonna be a good one. And business just picked up here on the podcast. Oh, yeah.
We're rolling. Coffee Talk. Last one of 2020 as the Steelers play down early.
They are down early. I didn't like how that first drive looked at all.
I didn't see it. I was using my wife's fancy new coffee machine I got her, which this coffee just, I sent you that picture. Dude, it's good.
It looks great. Yeah.
It's the Nespresso Grand Latisma, I think. So it's got the milk frother. It's got, dude, it's good. Because at the new house, we're going to have like a little kind of a dry bar area in the bedroom. So I wanted to get our new coffee machine for the new house.
I love my coffee pot. I have this pretty like intense coffee pot. It does like a pour over on its own pretty much, but like I want an espresso machine too.
Yeah, these are nice, especially for the house, to be able to have it where it's upstairs, and like with the frother, you can make a latte, you can make a macchiato, you can make just a shot of espresso. And then downstairs, there's a coffee machine that one of my clients has, a Jura Giga 5, Jura.
I'm not going to pretend that I know. Yeah.
This thing, I only know it because I saw it, and I'm spelling it out because people listening are going to go like fact check this. The machine costs $5,500.
All right, so BASCHMANIA Coffee Talk, we're going to start a GoFundMe.
Yes.
For what's it called?
A Jura Giga 5. And I think that's how you pronounce it. It's stupid. Hands down, best coffee I've ever had, without a doubt.
So if we on GoFundMe or Venmo, we'll get one, and then we can try it out on the show.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is just like...
That's not a bad idea, right?
No, I think it's a great idea. And the thing is just, I'm telling you, it is like, I told my wife, I don't know that I can ever justify buying a $5,000 coffee machine. No. But if I get to that point in life where like I can spend $5,000 on a coffee machine, that's what I'm buying. And the first thing I'm buying.
If I had that type of money where I could buy a $5,000 coffee machine, that's something I would splurge on. I don't think I wouldn't buy like a race car or anything like that. That's not me, but
the coffee machine, and it's low key, because if somebody comes over and just like, I only know how much it costs because he's got one at his office and at his house. And I went to his house one time, we were working on the weekend, and I'm like, man, this is a good cup of coffee. And after I'm drinking it, he ran to the bathroom, ran somewhere. And I'm like looking it up, like, oh man, I got to get this thing. Like, done deal, I'm sold. I look it up and I couldn't believe the price. And I'm like, man, congrats for you.
But I guess I'm not getting one of these.
Right. No. Yeah, that was a quick roller coaster of a experience. Speaking of roller coasters, I guess good segue. Yeah. Allegedly, Ben Askren and Jake Paul are going to box.
I'm here for it.
I'm just so confused by it. I guess on Ben's side, he's gonna have a payday.
One quick question: how many punches have you seen Ben Askren throw?
I've never watched any of his fights.
Not a ton. Not a ton. I mean, like he was a good fighter because he's good on the ground, and he was a great wrestler.
And it's like, if you're Ben and you get a good payday, I don't blame you. He got paid. He got knocked out in like 5 seconds. If you want to like risk that happening again, like
you can't really go down from there. He got kneed in the face in 5 seconds. Like that was one of most brutal knockouts ever. It can't get much worse than that. So
right, and so it's like, I've never been in the position where I've been offered a lot of money with a potential outcome being embarrassment. But
right,
so I can't blame him. I can't blame him.
Yeah.
I'm more perplexed at why when Jake Paul is calling out Dylan Dennis, Conor McGregor, legit like fighters that like I thought Ben was retired. Like he just had hip surgery a couple months ago. I don't know. So I'll consider him a retired athlete. I don't know why you'd go after a retired athlete if you're trying to say like Jake Paul looked amazing when he's in these boxing matches. Why wouldn't you go after someone who's like actively training right now?
So here's my thought on it. If you see the video where he was like throwing stuff at Dylan Dennis.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, no, it was terrible. So they kind of like ambush him, right? They throw stuff on him. They're calling him a pussy, right? They're telling him he's pussy, he's soft, and they're throwing stuff at him. And then as soon as Dennis runs up to the truck, Jake Paul goes dip, dip, dip. Like, like that's extremely hypocritical. You can't call.
I know, and it's like,
away.
And that's why I don't like if you're. And credit to Jake Paul for like his publicity stunts. He's got millions and millions of followers. If that's his MO, great. He's building an audience and he's getting huge paydays. But why go after Ben Askren then? Why not wait to get a signed contract for one of these active fighters?
I'm not sure. I mean, Ben Askren's probably going to get some good money from it. So
yeah, again, I can't blame Ben. Like it's a payday. If you offer me like X, I don't know what the number would be, but if you offered me X amount of money to fight someone, I'd probably take it if the payday was high enough. I'm like, what's the worst case scenario? I get embarrassed. Okay, it's worth the money. That's his worst case scenario. He just went through the worst case scenario. For Jake, I can't really understand. And I don't think Jake has publicly said anything about it. I saw Ben tweeting about it. I went through his feed. I didn't see anything.
I haven't really looked at it a ton. I saw a couple posts that it was happening in February. So
yeah, March.
It's
actually, I saw something like it's the week after NCAAs, and I've heard he's going to be working with Flo at NCAA. So it's like a week out from I don't even want to call it celebrity event. You're going to be like at NCAAs. Like
Ben Askren's great at pulling stuff out though. So I could see just catching him with one. Like,
but the other thing to me is I've never thought like when I started really following college wrestling and even senior level, he was like just winding down. So I never like watched him a lot. When I like see him now, he looks like the dad bod type. Like he looks hunched over a little bit. He doesn't look as good as he is. Like he's a sleeper. So if he came out there and did something, that wouldn't surprise me one bit.
No.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
How he was in the UFC and everything too. I mean,
I never watched his fights. So literally, the only fight I watched, he got knocked out in 5 seconds.
No, his physique has never really looked super intimidating, but that's just him though.
Where would you rank him in wrestlers with their dad bod / sleeper style of a physique with their ability to compete?
Can I get some other examples of guys that you?
I'm trying to think of some. I don't know. Like,
all right, so I don't think his physique is, I mean, I got a little gut, so maybe me sometimes. Man,
Cenzo in the preseason.
Yeah, Cenzo in the beginning of the season. Askren. I mean, Bo's a little more put together than him, but Bo doesn't have a super crazy.
No, Bo's got a bit of a sleeper body.
And he just dumps guys on their heads all day too. Yeah, so
David kind of did too before he went to 86.
Yeah, he's not anymore though.
Yeah, when he went up to 86, it was a different world. He went from like a boy to a man real quick. But when he was like in college, he was kind of a sleeper from his like. If you're just looking at him, if you know who he is, it's no sleeper. But if you were just like a casual college fan tuning in, you might be in for a surprise. Speaking of other NLWC athletes, Zain Bajrang.
Great match.
I said he was going to win. He did.
I'm not saying we called it,
but
yeah, we were a little off on that. He got in and finished his leg attacks, and he was awesome defending. I think he wrestled a pretty perfect match.
I think he wrestled a perfect match, and I think Bajrang wrestled a bad match. And the combination.
I think Bajrang wrestled a great match.
Really? You think so?
I think, yeah. I don't know about that. I think Zayn's really, really good.
Right. I'm not surprised Zain won it all. I guess I'm always Bajrang's another one of those guys that we were talking about last week that when they lose, you're surprised. Yes. Like I expected Zain to win, but still, when you see a guy like Bajrang lose, you're like, wow, Bajrang lost. Like he's really good.
There's not a ton of you watch him wrestle. There's not a ton of holes in his game, right?
Yeah,
and he's good at most things, but Zain was just a little bit better in those finishing positions, and that pretty much got him the win just in the hand fight.
What did you think of the RBY Sterling match?
I thought Sterling surprised me a lot. I think he surprised a lot of people. His wrestling was pretty good.
People were hating on him because he posted a video and everybody's like, dude, that's not going to work against RBY.
Well, I saw the video. I thought the same thing. We thought the same thing.
Yeah, that was like the general gist of his training.
Yeah, it was like he's not getting out of the first period, but I thought he looked great. He looked massive. I thought his wrestling was very impressive. That jiu-jitsu, he's very, very good too. So
yeah, the jiu-jitsu RBY stick to wrestling for right now.
Right now, we'll get to that later down the road.
Yeah. What about our boy Coffee Nick? 14-10 match, 24 points on the board. What are your thoughts on that one?
I think Tariq Wilson looked good. He
made adjustments.
He said a different Tariq Wilson was coming, and he looked like a different Tariq Wilson. He was attacking, getting the legs and finishing too. I think Nick needs to do a little better of a job being conscious of that, because a guy like Tariq Wilson, he's long arms. He can attack from a lot of different positions. So I think it was a great match. I think that was one of the best matches of the event. It was a lot of good back and forth.
Yeah, the Michael Beard Nick Greenan match was that was a good match, and we had said if he lost, it would have been by like a point or two, but he won. And it was by 4. He looked great though. He looked dominant.
Yeah, I think so. Also,
the entire lineup, I was really like a lot of those matches. The only one, and you had texted me the same time I was thinking about it, about Bergie.
Yeah,
and I was thinking like, I feel like Bergie's a guy who could pull off the upset. Hayden's such a good wrestler, but I'm like,
Hayden's great. Yeah.
Bergie, I'm like, I could see if he pulled off the upset. He didn't. But what did you think overall about him wrestling?
I think it was good to see Brady on the mat and him competing. I think he got more comfortable as the match was going on too.
Yeah, he did.
That's just, he hasn't wrestled in a while. That's a first.
He gray shirted too, didn't he?
But he was a little hurt last year for a bit, so
I thought he gray shirted and then red shirted.
Yeah, he's been out for a while.
I gotta be thinking of someone else.
No, he red shirted and wrestled 149 as a freshman. He had a pretty tough weight cut.
Another match on that card that stuck out to me that I was like not surprised at, and I told people don't sleep on it, was Jane Valencia.
Her matches are always
always
like that.
But that, I don't know how to pronounce the name. Moda Pettis, I think it is.
I think that's it also.
She headlocked the crap out of Allie Reagan back at Senior Nationals. So Jane Valencia is really good. I'm like, she also just beat up Allie Reagan in kind of like a thriller match. I'm like,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, that was back in like October. And I don't know if that was just Allie getting a little rust off or not, whatnot, but Jane Valencia is just so good. I wish she wrestled for the US.
She's just tough. She wins a lot of matches at the end.
Yeah, she's one of those like international wrestlers that I wish was for the US. That's my only thing. Is like,
I think a lot of the US girls want to wrestle her now. So
it's going to be good exciting, matches. Yeah.
Yeah, she's good. So that's why.
Yeah, that whole card. Any other matches you think about? I mean, Carter's just stupid good going out there getting that tech. Just like,
yeah, he's a workhorse. For those who watch the undercard, Joey Bloomer, shout out to my guy. Joey.
You're texting about that.
Few win Dixies in there. Oh yeah, that was fun. That was a good match.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was as old as he was.
Joey, yeah.
I
think they announced him as a redshirt freshman. That's not the case. No.
I wonder if that's what I heard. Bo Bartlett's a savage too. Speaking of the undercard.
So I was talking to another guy, like one of the club guys today, talking about Bo Bartlett, and I know how he's very, very talented and athletic, and he's a good wrestler. But he flips to switch when he's on the mat, and he's a really nice kid, and he's kind of mean. He's kind of a monster.
He reminds me
really good.
He's got that Zain gene, which is like, I'm a nice kid, but if I turn it on, like,
oh yeah,
Punisher style. Like that's what he reminds me of.
He same, but he's an athlete.
Yeah,
he's gonna be dangerous. He's gonna be very good, I think.
I'm looking at the matches, trying to think of other matches. I mean, some of these were just like, it was good to see some of these guys just getting out there and wrestling, but those were the ones that really stuck out to me. And it's kind of weird that there were so many cards so quick, and now we have a little bit of a break, I guess. The Flow cards January 9th. I think there's a Spartan one January 8th, which, by the way, what's up with the Cenzo return? You keep saying coming soon.
Yeah, so we're just trying to find the right time right now. Like I said, I was off the mat for a little bit, so I need to make sure that I'm back, in shape and everything.
Are you getting eager seeing all these matches happen?
Extremely eager. Yeah.
I can't wait to see you back out. Maybe we'll get lucky and see it sooner than we think. I mean, they announced a banger of a match yesterday with Adeline and Mensah Stock. That's going to be
awesome.
Yeah, that match is one that I think a lot of people have been waiting for, world champ versus world champ. And we were texting about it because this is finally like Flow's delivering on both the men's and the women's side. And this is a match that a lot of people, whether it's Greco, whether it's women's, men's, a lot of people just push for like what they're the biggest fans of. And it doesn't matter. Like, I love when there's matches that are like world champ like this. I love the storylines. That's what I loved about the Valencia match. Like, I've never been a technical guy. For me, like the marketing side of me, I love the storylines. That's, to me, is what draws me in. And I love that you're starting to see success on the women's side to where you can have matches with such storylines. Because I don't care what anybody says. If you don't know who they are, or if you don't like know the backstory, it's never as interesting.
Yeah, so the NLWC card, the undercard was free, right?
Yeah.
Like, not like those people weren't getting paid because, that's just how it is. Like, not if you don't really have the name, you don't have the publicity, you don't bring in, the viewership, you don't get paid as much. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I got into a little bit of an argument last night. I won't say with who, but they corrected me on Twitter because I loosely used the term college wrestling, and it wasn't 100% accurate because what he wanted me to say was the majority of D1 college wrestling starts Friday. All I said was college wrestling starts Friday. Everybody got the general gist of what I was saying. Everybody understood. Yeah, a lot of the duels are starting Friday. There's been a little bit of wrestling, but for me, one of the things that like annoyed me was I'm glad he covers the heck out of D2 and D3 college wrestling. That's important. I'm not a fan of it as much because I don't know the storylines. For me, I'm a D1 guy. And just as we were talking about, like, not everybody who, like, there are cult NFL followers. Cult.
Right.
They don't know a thing about the XFL or arena football or anything
like
else.
No. I don't. I follow NFL football.
Right. We text about it all the time. You're even more following it than I am with, playing fantasy on other things.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think all that to say, I don't think we need to force people into boxes within wrestling on what they enjoy. And
I don't think so either.
And if you're somebody like me who covers something, or like my biggest thing is college D1 wrestling and the senior level.
And those have the biggest viewership typically. And that's just what's the most popular.
And I even said, for me, it was because of the fact of who, like, Cal Sanderson became a client of mine, then Jake Varner, then Jordan Burroughs. So I instantly started following Cal as a coach more and following clients, Varner, Burroughs, Taylor. Because they were clients of mine and some of them turned into good friends of mine, I watched them relentlessly. Like, if you were wrestling tomorrow in Turkey at 3 a.m., I would get up and watch that. For somebody I don't care about, I'm not going to do that. And now because I'm promoting the sport in my own ways, I'm naturally going to talk about and cover what I find interesting. You're going to have people who like
you're not obligated to cover things that you don't want to.
Right. And it's like, you see a lot of it with like I know some people have gotten in trouble for not loving or giving enough love to Greco. Well, when was the last time there was an Olympic medal won in Greco? Like, there's a lot of good Greco wrestlers, but we as a country haven't won.
We haven't really been seeing Greco matches on cards or anything either. There's really no Greco being hyped up right now at all.
Right. And I think it takes winning, and that's how you draw fans. And like for me, I can't remember who was on the podcast, maybe Victoria Anthony. And we were talking about like I've become, and we've talked about it, I've become so much more of a women's wrestling fan
because they're doing great.
They're winning.
Right.
They're doing awesome. And for me personally, like once Helen became a client of mine and I started really following her career even more, that drew me because I had a personal connection. And now as they're winning, like everybody's excited for this match on Flow now because it's 2 world champs. You want to see the match. People are going to start probably having favorites on who they'd like to win or who maybe they want to see lose. That's good. That's how you grow the sport. That's how you get people interested. Winning, nothing creates relevance like winning.
Right. And it's you don't like, it's a lot of people, Greco, freestyle wrestlers, men's freestyle, women's freestyle. They try to set up matches, however, social media, whether it's, right on the timeline or DM or something like that. And then they're like, all right, yeah, let's wrestle. Someone pick us up for their card.
Yep.
And if someone wants to pick you up for a card, like absolutely, they have the right to do that, but you're not entitled to a match.
Right.
There has to be people that want to see you. And it doesn't matter if you are a men's freestyle wrestler, women's freestyle wrestler, Greco-Roman wrestler, if you do jiu-jitsu, whatever, there has to be a following. There has to be people that want to see you wrestle for you to, get paid. All that.
Yeah, because it's
from that you have to have typically success is where that comes from.
Yeah, the winning creates the relevance. And I don't think that if you're in the event business, I don't think you should disqualify anybody because it's a women's match or it's a Greco match or it's a folk style match. But to that effect, you only deserve a match if somebody wants you to wrestle. That's
exactly.
it. And I think you also I've learned a lot from you and others I've been talking to recently about how many people won't wrestle. And I've seen some names, both men and women, that I've heard, they say they want to wrestle, but they were offered a match and they didn't take the match. Or, that person wants to wrestle, but they'll only wrestle if they get X amount of money. Well, if it was me and I really wanted to promote, and I do this still to this day, if I want to promote something that I think needs to be proven, I'm doing it for free. Right. The money will come. If you're a world champion and you're a woman, you deserve to get paid fairly. But the organization that's paying you is going to dictate that. The fans that tune in and buy events, they're going to dictate that. It's like my clients dictate what I'm worth because they'll either pay it or they not. If I go tell someone, hey, this website's going to be $100,000, I don't deserve that. I only deserve what they'll pay, and right. I think both any side of the sport, if I was a female right now trying to push women's wrestling more or a Greco wrestler trying to push Greco,
I would be taking matches.
I would take every match I could get to prove to people, see, this is why we need more women's matches. See, this is why we need more Greco's matches. Like, as I really start following women's wrestling more, I want to start seeing more matches, not only as a fan, but to kind of prove my point to others who may be behind the 8 ball. Like, no, see how good that match was. See how good the hype was. See how good from a business standpoint it was. It's like, I want more matches, but everybody's got to be willing to do it. And I think there's on the business side, I always tell people, like, there's a big argument, like whether or not you should intern for free or not. Like, you know how much free work I've done over the last 10, 11, 12 years to get my name out there, to get something out there, just for the opportunity to have the experience and the exposure, and again, I think everybody deserves to get paid what somebody's willing to pay them, and don't hold it against someone for being Greco or folk style or a woman, whatever. But the business and the fans are ultimately going to dictate what that pay is going to be.
Yeah, the market decides.
Yep.
How much you're going to get paid, what you're worth. If you're really, you could be a great men's freestyle wrestler, but if you're boring, if you don't do that much,
yeah,
you're probably not going to get paid as much on these cards, and that's because the demand isn't there.
And now I feel like the men and women that are going to get the most money, and I've been paying attention on both on the NLWC side, on the flow side, you're starting to see athletes engage more and more with promoting the event. Yes. It's almost becoming a prerequisite. Like, hey, we're going to pay you X and you must promote the event Y times. Mm-hmm. Organizations are going to look at how you engage in social media, knowing if they're paying you and they're counting on you to drive business, which is driving event purchases, subscriptions, all that. They're looking at, hey, how many subscriptions do I think someone's going to drive? There are people that thankfully I've been able to get all the guests on this podcast for the most part that I want. But there's times where I'm like, especially early on, I definitely want to have people on that I know would share it. Because if I'm helping tell your story and I'm doing all this and you don't want to share it, well, that doesn't help me. Helping this podcast grow is sharing content out, and I think companies are going to start looking at, again, I don't care if you're a man or a woman, if you're not engaging, I think that's going to hurt your brand and hurt getting matches.
Yeah, I think so too. And I actually, I did a podcast this is a little bit ago. I did a podcast for some, wrestling podcast. I'm not going to say who it was, but they just and they just never posted it.
Really?
It was like an hour-long podcast. I don't want to say they're like a big podcast, but you might know who they are. They just never posted it.
Wow. Yeah, you'll have to text me who it is. I'm curious. Why did they not post it?
I have no idea. Maybe it wasn't good. maybe they didn't hit the record button. I have no idea.
I've had one episode where that happened to. I used to do a podcast with a buddy of mine around faith and politics, and Tim Tebow did a movie, and his producer, director, or something hopped on. And my buddy's audio was so terrible. He was basically he forgot to switch it over from his computer. And it was like an echo and it sounded like he was talking 10 feet away. And I'm like, we can't use this. I'm sorry. It's terrible.
Yeah. It could have been something like that too.
But he told them hey, just so you know, we totally messed up the audio. We're so sorry. If you want to re-record it, we'll do that. But yeah, that's bizarre. I want to know who, so text me, but don't give them free airtime. There's no free ads on the show.
No.
Oh, man. I don't know why you want to put that out. What's that?
Besides for the $5,000 coffee machine.
Yeah, that for the GoFundMe. That.
I said besides for the $5,000. Yeah.
And by the way, speaking of coffee, I forgot to mention, Apple reviews are crucial. Apple reviews help podcasts grow. They help better placement. So for people listening right now, if you go and leave a 5-star review, and you can't already have left one, I'll do something different for people who've already left one. Go and leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts for this podcast. Screenshot it, tweet us, and I'm going to pick some of you and Venmo you coffee money. I'll Venmo you $5 to $10 to go buy a coffee.
That's a good idea.
At your local coffee shop. Support local. Don't go to Starbucks. If you're in State College, go to Rothrock. That place is
Rothrock, Saints, Sowers, all great.
Sowers is really good. That's that place that's in the little strip mall, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think I went there with Zain.
That's an NLWC staple right there.
Yeah, you're almost guaranteed if you're in State College and you go there on lunchtime, you're guaranteed to see an NLWC PSU wrestler.
There's a very high chance, yeah.
If you're listening, go and leave a review, screenshot it, tweet it to us, and we'll pick some of you and Venmo you money for a coffee. Talking about more recent news, kind of a lighter note, but dude, there's been 3 deaths in literally the last 36 hours. There was Dan Hodge, legend, 88 years old.
Yeah.
I was diving into his career more.
I really don't know much about Dan Hodge, so
He wrestled for Oklahoma. He was NCAA champion, went to the Olympics, was a silver medalist. Then he was a silver Olympic medalist, I think, in 1956, opted out of wrestling, and then like went for boxing or something. Crazy story.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
He's he was 88 years old. That was sad. I didn't know the what's his name?
Mikey Rashado,
yeah.
That was sad. Pit wrestler. He was one of those guys that was just super friendly, outgoing, just a nice, good heart. And
I saw a lot of tributes all over. Like
sad.
You texted me like, man, and then like I started paying attention even more, and I saw just how many people, especially in Pennsylvania, like you could tell
that he was an awesome guy just from how many people were just reaching out, saying things about about his character, stuff like that.
Yeah, and he looked familiar. Like the more I started seeing it and seeing some of the matches, he looked familiar. It's so sad.
He was a good wrestler too.
Yeah, he was a 3-time Pennsylvania state champ, right?
He was great. Yeah, especially in high school.
Then he had a career at Pitt, and then also last night. I don't know if you don't follow pro wrestling too much, do you?
No, really don't.
So John Huber died, and he's from Rochester. He's 41. He was in the WWE and AEW, but that was like after seeing the Dan Hodge, seeing Mikey, and now I'm like a third one. And I guess he had like a non-COVID related lung issue, like 41 dead. I'm like literally 3 deaths within wrestling in 24 hours. It's so like, I don't know.
Times.
Yeah, it is. This whole year has been like that. So that definitely stinks to see all that. More recent news, I mentioned it earlier, talking about getting rebuked for not being 100% factually correct, and he said, he's like, look, you have a big platform, your podcast and everything else is only gaining more momentum, like you just got to be careful. I go, okay, I get it. What annoyed me at the time was he just said it like 6 times and then took it to direct message, and I'm like, dude, okay, I get it.
I need to look at this. I haven't seen any of it.
And I get what he's saying, but I was just like, it was 10 o'clock on a Saturday too, like, dude. But the thing that I initially tweeted about was that the bulk of D1 college wrestling starts Friday, and we still have no Big Ten schedule. Forget Big Ten championships. We still have no Big Ten schedules.
Yeah, so
Shane Sparks says they're coming soon.
As a former Penn State wrestler, our schedule would come out at the last possible minute every single year. So I don't think our guys are too concerned.
No, and I heard Shane Sparks responded saying it'll be out like really soon. And I think I saw Tom Ryan a while ago say that he thought it was going to start the 15th.
Yeah, I mean, Big Ten guys for the most part, that's where you get, I don't want to say your cream of the crop, but for the most part, that's how it is. It's just Big Ten's just built like that. So most of those guys, they're going to be ready to go whenever the start is. The coaches are going to have their teams ready.
And I think everybody's going to be so fired up to compete. I'm thinking more like logistically, like traveling, getting there. If I'm going to go, like, not that I mean much in the grand scheme of things, but like people traveling, even like media going and covering things. I know with COVID, I'm assuming most of these events aren't going to have fans, but still the team's got to travel. I don't know if I'm curious if there's going to be changes to, I know when Cal came on here, which that interview's down now. That's a whole nother story. When Cal was on here, though, he had said that he doesn't really want to host Big Tens.
Right.
Because the fact is, like, why would we want to host an empty arena? Like, we want to try to host it. So I'll be curious to see if they end up changing that, which I'm assuming could change up to the very last minute. I don't think when they release the schedules that will change, but it's something I'm looking at nonetheless.
Yeah, even whenever I was, I'll probably even follow the schedules even closer this year, but I never really followed along like a ton. I didn't know where we were going until the week of, typically.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like, see, I'm an analyst. I'm an overthinker. I'd be looking at things like doing dates. Like I'd have like a whiteboard wars.
Yeah, no, we, beginning of the week. So like, whatever the week is, that's like, we have that match that weekend, and that's really that's the focus at the moment. And
do you just not care who you're going to wrestle, or you're just so focused on what you're going to do?
I think it's that I really didn't care. I don't need to. It's not like I'm going to change how I'm training all week just for a specific opponent. That doesn't make a ton of sense.
So even what about like a big duel, like Iowa?
No, I mean, like, I know how that guy wrestles.
But like timing wise, you don't care. It's all like, okay, it's Monday. I got Marinelli this weekend. So that's that's interesting. Right. And speaking of schedules and you competing, I think a couple of days ago, the Oregon got canceled.
Yeah, I didn't really see that. I've been trying to, it's been difficult getting information on international tournaments and anything like that.
It's wild. I don't know. Like,
are we gonna have a last chance qualifier? Are we gonna have anything here in the U.S.?
Apparently, no matter what, I believe there's going to be at least a last chance qualifier, no matter what. But I think as of now, I believe it changed from the winner to the top 2 qualify for the trials.
Okay.
And I think the only thing I could see happening is if for some reason there wasn't an NCAA tournament,
I take top 3 or something.
They take top 3. Yeah. But I think no matter what, especially since, I mean, there was never a last chance even in 2020.
Right.
You never had that. So before, I mean, that's got to be in like March, end of March.
Yeah. So last year there was an NCAAs, and then, there was, I think they were thinking about increasing the last chance. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's just hearsay, what I hear from.
But I don't know what the buildup is going to be like to the Olympic trials. Like we're 4 months, we're 3.5 months out.
Probably electric.
Like,
I don't know.
Like, what's is it just going to be straight card matches? Like, if you want to get matches in, you got to wrestle cards. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay,
tournament time. Yeah.
Right. NLWC 6 in March. And it's like, okay, see you in a couple weeks of the trials.
That's what I was thinking too. I mean, the cards are going to have to stop at some point, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then they'll probably pick up again after.
Yeah, I assume right after the Olympic trials, they'll pick back up. Like you probably won't see much at all in March. If there's no tournaments, you might see one, because if you're competing at the trials, let's say it's the same date as last year. I think it was like April 4th and 5th. If you're competing then, when is the latest or earliest in relation to that you'd want to compete?
It doesn't matter. I could compete the next week. Like, it's not going to be like that, but college.
But
season.
I'm that's what I'm thinking. Like, if it's, let's say early March is like the end of the cards, and then they'd probably pick back up, let's say end of April, maybe after the trials, and then you'd have people that probably didn't make the team would want to compete. Those who made the team will probably start going into certain training for the Olympics. But yeah, I don't think it's going to slow down.
Guys that have been competing as much as possible on pretty much every card that, like Bryce Meredith, he wrestles all the time.
Yeah.
So
Seth Gross, a lot of them.
Yeah, he wrestles a lot. Gilman's been getting at it too. So
yeah. Have you heard anything more about the Spartan card? I haven't heard much about it.
I've heard zero. I heard more. I heard more about it last month.
Yeah, I heard Austin O'Connor and Yanni were wrestling, I think. I don't know. Like, some of these organizations need to do a better job of promoting their cards.
Yeah. And I think we might need to do a better job with that also. Just get things out and like a little earlier. Even though like most of the people buy it at the very last minute too. But
and we talked about that last week. Like, you still need the time for the build up. You're going to buy it, but who's going to fight in 3 months on a UFC fight, and you're going to buy it the day before. Like, okay, if Ben Askren and Jake Paul are going to box March 28th, you're going to buy it March 27th. I'm
not going to buy that.
No, I don't think I would either, because if it's 5 seconds again.
I don't want to support Jake Paul. Are you kidding me?
No, did you buy the Logan Paul?
No.
Or not? The Logan? Who did Logan Paul fight? I can't remember now.
Oh, on the Tyson card, Nate Robinson.
Yeah. Well, Logan Paul too is also now apparently going to box Mayweather. That's what I'm thinking about.
So yeah, I don't know which one of those is which. To be honest, I get the calls mixed up.
Jake Paul boxed Nate Robinson.
Yeah, I don't want to listen. I know me buying that fight is like 0% like of that guy's like income, but like any sort of my
principal.
Like that's just I'm not giving that guy a dime. Yeah.
It takes a lot for me to buy a pay-per-view in the MMA boxing fight
I'll buy
arena.
UFC, Bellator. I will buy those anytime.
For me, I'm such a I go to bed so early. If I don't really want to watch the card, I'm not going to buy it because I probably won't stay up. I honestly, the last one I bought, I'm thinking it might have been McGregor Mayweather.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh, wow.
I've seen a bunch and I've watched a bunch, but I honestly go to bed so early and some of these fights are over so quick. It's like you wait till 1 a.m. to watch a 2-minute fight when you could have literally watched the entire thing on Twitter the next morning.
But sometimes they're awesome, and that's what it's
agreed. And I miss some of those. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, as some of these college wrestlers start transitioning to MMA, once Bo's out there, I'll be buying every single one. Once certain guys start competing in the UFC and Bellator, I'm trying to think. There was somebody.
We're gonna have it's wrestling has been great in UFC, Bellator, but I think there's gonna be a huge surge.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And I think Bo's going to contribute to that, having that top team gym in State College.
I think it's going to be a huge.
I saw him and Nolf got their white belts yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know either of them were doing that.
Good for them. Yeah, neither did I. So Mrs. Nolf got her white belt too.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. I had shared it. I was like, "Congrats, Bo! Congrats, Jason!" And then afterwards, I realized it was a multiple photo post.
Yeah,
and I swiped. I'm like, "Oh wait, Maddie got it too."
Maddie
okay.
got hers also. Yeah. Yeah. No, I wouldn't want to tangle with her.
No.
She's
an athlete. She's tough.
Yeah, she's a tough athlete. Yeah.
Yeah, I think these MMA cards, as they get more wrestlers, they'll probably start getting more of my support. There's just so many things that you can do within wrestling that if I'm going to buy event, there's so many more things that I'll watch.
I'll buy wrestling events too, And, and especially since,
is there any you won't buy?
If I'm not if I'm completely not interested in it, I probably won't. I don't know. If there's no good matches on it, I don't know.
Yeah, I buy most of them, but every now and then there's one that I'm just eh. I also hate when they're on track. I just don't like using track. They have such good streaming. They have such good value on their website. I hate using their website. I'll probably still going to buy it. I just hate using it.
Yeah. I mean, and with the Rockfin subscription, you get most of them anyway.
And I'm on Rockfin now.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting.
Uh-huh.
Rockfin.com/BASCHMANIA if you're not subscribed. My whole thing is I don't think many people are
unsubscribe, resubscribe.
Yeah, I don't think many people are going to subscribe to me, which is why when Martin and I first talked, I think I'm a value add. I think if you go subscribe to the NLWC, you'll then want to consume my content. That to me makes sense. I don't see someone going on
so too.
Just for me. But that's why I love where Rockfin's at now, because you can go subscribe to the NLWC channel, support the athletes, and then also get my content. That's where I'd like it. Rockfin definitely needs to make some improvements. The app is not.
I don't know the ins and outs a ton of how the site works either.
I don't like that. I'm spoiled with Flow and YouTube that on my Apple TV, I can just press play.
Right.
I don't like that on Rockfin. I have to do it on my computer or phone and stream it.
Yep.
That's annoying.
Me too.
But they'll get there for what the platform is doing. The back end too, it's not that user friendly. When I post an article on my own website, you can embed a podcast or something. So I posted an article about Sean McDermott. You say, listen here, and you embed it. Can't do that on Rockfin yet. So the platform is definitely still early and growing, but I love the community it's building. There's so much content.
It has potential to be great. It really, really does. Yeah.
It does. And there's such a central hub of content. Flow's not as bad as track, but if you just want to go see what's going on, Rockfin is honestly one of the best places to open the app. And because it's more it's more condensed. There's not much fluff.
The Flow like homepage tries to like jam certain things at you.
You also can't find stuff like if you like I couldn't find. I looked to see something about FRL, and it's like you got to go under news. Why don't you say podcast or radio?
I tried to find the Division I college rankings the other day and was having a very hard time.
I did too. You have to. I went to Google, typed it in to try to get right to the page.
Right.
Otherwise, you have to go to rankings, scroll through like 6 different pages of like D2 Idaho men's folk style rankings, and everything's like
Idaho JV rankings.
They need to consult with BASCH Solutions because we would organize a crap out of that. Like you just need like maybe a map of the U.S. Go into what region you want, or if it's national, click not like. There's got to be an easier way because like an
interactive U.S. map.
Right. Exactly. Wow. Something that makes it easier to go exactly find what you want. If you want, I would personally probably break it up as like level, senior level, college, high school.
Right.
I don't know if they do youth or not.
There's no need to do youth rankings.
I saw Ashnoltz doing youth rankings, and I saw Sam Herring and him go back and forth.
There's no reason to do youth rankings. All that will do is just either hype kids up or too much, or break kids down too much. I don't think youth wrestling should have rankings.
Yeah, I don't know that I know enough to make a formal opinion, but I will say that a lot of kids are trying to find or not trying to, they are finding their worth in a ranking, and that's dangerous. Like your worth has nothing to do with what somebody ranks you. It's one person's opinion on where you fall, and time after time, results prove that rankings can be very, very, very irrelevant. You can be ranked 10th and go in a tournament with ease. Like it's an ego boost. I don't like that, but
I think rankings mess with people's heads a ton, especially, young high school kids and middle school. It's just like I haven't really interacted with a bunch of high school wrestlers or junior high in a while. Then I started coaching at M2 David Club, and some of the younger guys are just super into, rankings, like what they're ranked at, whatever. And I'm like, guys, it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean anything for recruiting. One person's opinion doesn't really matter a ton, especially at the high school level like that.
Yeah, and I've never been good enough to be ranked either, so I don't know like I'm glad you think that because you have. So it's like, but for me, I just hate seeing people, and especially now, you have so much suicide everywhere. You have so much like self-worth, self-doubt, so many issues, and I feel like rankings for the most part only contribute to that. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't know. I don't know what people's motives are behind them. I don't think Ashnolt's doing anything. I don't think he's not trying to help grow the sport or promote the sport or whatever he's doing.
Right. No, and like I'm sure he doesn't think like I'm going to affect these kids in a negative.
Right. No, 100%.
Yeah, there's no way that's going through his head.
No, I think he's probably trying to like hype it up and build it up.
Right.
Which as we talked about,
it's a perspective on it, really. But
yeah, and I think like we talked about on the gambling aspect, I like from a gambling standpoint seeing where rankings fall, because seeds you can, for the fan, you can see, okay, this guy's a 9,
but that's for like college level and above.
Yeah,
that's fine. Like if you're an adult by then, like if you can't live with it, get better.
But what's funny too is that like, I'll tell this story offline. I don't want to. Okay. Let me make a note of that. I want to tell you this story, but I don't ever want to blast anybody in this podcast. I appreciate what people are doing for the sport, and my perspective a lot of times is just trying to understand it and see things differently. But yeah.
Also, real quick to interrupt, Steelers are not doing great.
Yeah, the Colts just scored again. It's 21-7. I didn't want to bring that up and ruin the morale.
I don't have a TV on in here. I'm not even in my own room right now.
Yeah, we got to get you some kind of little studio set up.
I know. In time, we'll get there
for sure. Well, that's most of what I got. I'm trying to think, is there anything else you think we didn't get to?
NLWC draft show. If you haven't checked it out, go look at our draft show we did for Christmas. We should have another one coming up soon too.
Eric Thompson's a natural host.
Eric Thompson does a fantastic job. He did a little coffee talk chat with Zain. Actually, went over to Zain's house. Zain made some coffee.
I saw that.
Great video. We're gonna be doing more stuff like that. So, if you're subscribed or if you're not subscribed to the NLWC channel on Rockfin, I suggest you do that. We have some content on there, and we're just gonna keep putting out more. We'll probably record something else this week too. So,
and hopefully we get a dodgeball game soon. Live dodgeball 2020 year end. That'd be great, dude. I keep telling Cal.
We have to figure out how to do that with COVID.
Forgot about COVID. Shoot. Yeah. This freaking COVID ruins everything.
Yeah, man. Back to the youth rankings for a moment.
Yep.
One thing that also could be bad for that is the wrestlers' parents.
Yeah, you probably know more than me. The wrestling dads of college athletes is wild. I can't imagine, and I'm sure high school
not nearly as bad as at the youth level.
Correct. I can't imagine what a wrestling dad would do if their kid's not ranked where they think unless they're number one, you're probably going to hear something.
And if they're number one or higher, you'll probably hear all about it. And if they're not, whoever's doing the rankings will probably hear all about it. My advice is to not look at it and not worry about it because, your kid's 12. And
it doesn't really help with recruiting. I don't think a single college coach looks at hey, at 12 years old, this kid is ranked second. I think we're on to something.
Nope, not even a little bit. And if coaches are looking at 12-year-olds for recruiting, that might be an issue.
Yeah, we might have to get Ashnault on here next week and be like, let's talk about youth rankings. I'm interested in his perspective.
I'm not saying I've torn up Ashnault on this podcast. I like Ashnault, but I said like 2 negative things about him already. So I don't know. Maybe I need to watch my back or something.
We'll get him on here soon because
I'd like to have him on.
That's what coffee talk is all about. Having perspectives. That's what you do when you drink coffee. You talk about your perspective. You get the perspective out there. And if you guys have perspectives, we should start getting some questions in. All right, let's do it.
Yeah, I think that you guys listeners should tweet us some questions, some things to cover that you're interested in.
And the next time before we start recording, like the day before, we'll ask too.
Yeah.
Tweet those. I'm not going to tweet the show, but you know who I'm talking about, who always says tweet those blank questions.
Who does that?
I don't want to give the free airtime.
All right,
I'll tell you after the show.
All right, yeah. Or you don't have to tweet them. You can,
DM them.
Yeah, my Twitter messages are open. So are yours.
Slide into Cenzo's DMs. Mine are open too. Mm-hmm. Email us.
People are always sliding my DMs. Not really. No.
Maybe that should be a segment we do, like the wildest DMs that you've received.
So listen, I don't even know. Maybe might be listening right now, but I did a camp for a guy with one of my teammates a few years ago, and not much contact, whatever since then. I don't really know. Yeah. And he was super nice and everything, seemed like a great guy. Last year, whenever they announced that NCAAs, they was going to limit it to friends and family. This guy texted me and was like, "Hey, can I get on your friends and family pass? I've been going to NCAAs for the past X amount of years." And I don't think
shame.
I don't think I replied to him. That doesn't deserve a reply.
No, and I've honestly thought about asking close friends before. Now I have media credentials everywhere, which is super nice. But I've
close friends is fine.
I haven't even wanted to ask close friends. Maybe somebody else wants to go. Maybe they can give it to somebody else. I don't even want to ask. And I've had people I think I can't remember what event it was, and maybe it was Penn State, Ohio State a couple of years ago. And I happened to be on the phone with Kale that Saturday morning,
Yeah.
Yeah, it crashed my truck. I was talking to Cal, and he goes, "Oh, why don't you come down for the duel?" And I'm like, "Oh, maybe, I gotta see if I can get a ticket." He's like, "Oh, it's cool. I'll give you David's pass." I'm like, "All right, cool." But I wouldn't have asked him for it,
No,
like I
not.
know, and I mean, usually when I go down, like I'll stay at Cal's house or something. I still won't ask him for a pass. I don't know. There's other people who I feel like need it. I can't imagine the audacity to ask like
I mean,
somebody.
that's pretty ballsy. I mean, yeah.
I almost want to like prank someone now with that. Like message like Pletcher, someone who I'm like kind of casual acquaintances with, and be like, "Yo, I really need access to this. Can you give me
yeah.
Can you put me down as your manager for the Olympic trials?"
I'm trying to get on. Hey, I'm trying to get on the floor for this pit event.
Yeah.
Down there.
Oh man.
He's like assistant coach with the club now. He looked good. He looked good too.
He did. He won like 9-0 or something, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He looked awesome.
Of course he looked good. But of course he's gonna be good at 97. He's gonna be really good at 97.
You're not gonna like there's a flag.
Oh no. I'm
I didn't see what happened, but Colts just got the ball. I wasn't watching. I think the Steelers had the ball, and Colts were just running it in to like the 5-yard line. But there's a flag, so maybe it's coming back.
Oh boy. All right. Well.
All right. That's a wrap.
Hey,
coffee talk.
That is a wrap. I'm gonna go drink some more coffee now.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same.
Hope the Steelers get their crap together. I don't know.
They're only down 2 touchdowns, so it's attainable.
We'll see how it goes.
They're down. Right. What do you think what's the wrestling score equivalent to being down 21-7 at halftime?
21-7 at halftime. They're down like 7-3.
Up to folk style or freestyle? Because freestyle is one throw. Maybe 9-3 freestyle.
Folk style.
Okay.
Folk style 7-3.
All right.
Against a stingy wrestler too, man.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. 2 good guys.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right.
And that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If you did enjoy this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more episodes. For more wrestling content, be sure to follow BASCHMANIA on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and follow me. I'm at JBash on Instagram and at JustinJBash on Twitter.
And the beat goes on.